Hi everyone, my name's Colette Matriga. Welcome to my Thermy Kitchen. So today we're talking about bread, and I'm going to give you some tips and little tricks along the way. And I'm going to actually make my favorite everyday loaf that I make time and time again. Now there's amazing recipes on Cookie Dough, so if you haven't made bread, I really encourage you to give it a go. It's very easy, especially when you're following one of the many guided recipes there are for bread. So good ones to start out with in Cookie Dough are the basic bread and the everyday white bread. Now I'm going to do my loaf that I always do, and I'll give you that recipe a bit later, so let's get started. So the very first thing I do is I like to mill a little bit of flour, because we're going to use white flour, but as you probably know, white flour has most of the goodness taken from it. So in my pantry I have a range of grains that I love to use in my bread, and I love to mill them just before I'm baking my bread so that I get all the goodness. I get the germ, which is the protein, and I actually get the roughage from the outside. So just having a quick look at these. You can buy these from your whole food shops. They last for years in your pantry, really inexpensive. So what I've done is I have taken 100 grams, today I use the wheat germs, and I pop those into the Thermomix and I mill them for 1 minute 30 seconds. 1 minute 30 seconds, and this is what I've actually got. A beautiful flour with the germ and the outer roughage. So that's going to go into my bread to make it a little bit more nutritious. All right, let's go through the other ingredients. So the first thing I want to do, and it's really important that you follow the order when you're making bread. So the very first thing going into my Thermomix is some warm water, not hot because we don't want to kill the yeast, just warm. And I've got 270 grams. That's going into my Thermi. And then the next thing that I'm actually going to add in is some sugar. So I've got 1 teaspoon of sugar and just popping that in. So that's just white kind of caster sugar, but really doesn't matter what you're using there. And then I've got 2 teaspoons of instant yeast. So instant yeast, this is kind of what you're looking for. Buy this in Woolies and store it in the fridge. It's going to last you a little bit longer, and used for so many things. So the yeast is going in. 2 teaspoons. Now when you're tipping it in, make sure you're not tipping it on the blades. You want it in the water. Now I'm not going to warm those up and let them activate for a few minutes, because this is my everyday kind of loaf. I want to get on with things. So the yeast has gone in, and the next thing that I'm now going to add in is the flour. So here I've got 400 grams of white baker's flour. Now you do want the baker's flour because that's got a higher protein content, so it's going to give you that lovely gluten, which is going to give you a lovely light loaf. So all of that's going in there, and of course I'm also going to add in my flour that I made from my whole grains, so in that goes too. The next thing that I'm going to add in is a teaspoon of salt. Then I'm going to add in bread improver. Now people have mixed views about this, but it's basically just kind of enzymes and a range of things that's going to make your bread rise and shine and be absolutely beautiful. So I pop it in. If you choose not to, that's okay. Your bread just won't rise quite as much, but it's still going to be good. So the choice is yours. So bread improver, look it up on Google if you're not sure what that is. And then the very last thing, I've got a tablespoon of olive oil. So that's all my ingredients. So if I'm making that, that would literally take me a couple of minutes. So in the Thermomix, and now the Thermomix works its wonders. So what I need to do is I need to just give that an initial mix for 10 seconds at speed 5. So just to show you, that's the initial mix. So there we go, that's what we've got. That's absolutely fine. And now, this is one of the things I really love about the Thermomix, how it kneads. It's brilliant. So with the TM6, I'm going to zoom across into my functions, and I am going to select the kneading. What's your eyesight like, Andy? Oh, there we go, the dough. So the dough hook's coming up, and all I'm going to do is I am actually going to knead this for 5 minutes. So put the time in, 5 minutes, and all I do is flick that, and off that goes. So while that's kneading, let me just talk to you about shaping. So we're going to shape this dough together, but I do want to show you over here some of the options that you have. Now, the mix shop has got some great products for your bread making. So I do love to do a really kind of rustic loaf, and I love these Banetton tins. Easy to use, really important that you put loads and loads of flour in them. You don't need to wash them out, but pack them with flour. I also like to sprinkle them with some polenta, so that's going to be cool. And if you're choosing a round or a long one, this is definitely an easy one to work with. It's easier to shape your dough, but the round ones look beautiful too. So you can have both, just like me. So they're available in our mix shop. And what I love about them is you get these gorgeous kind of rustic lines on your loaf, and they're beautiful. Now our loaf tin, you might know about this already. It is really one of the best loaf tins I've ever come across. And everyone who has them tells you they love them to pieces. I have never washed this. This is quite a few years old. It is used regularly. So you'll see how we put the dough into this in a minute. And literally when that dough is ready, we just tip that out. So super easy. I would really recommend one of these. And it actually comes with a top. And quite often people will put the dough in here, but you want to be able to see how that dough is rising. So a little tip, what I do is I half or quarter close the lid, and then I'll just put a bit of cling film on the end, so I can see what's happening to the dough inside, and then when it's risen enough, I'll just close that up. So these bread tins are absolutely phenomenal, easy to use, no washing, they just fall out. I've had so many loaves stick in other tins. Oh, just this by the way, so this comes often with your tin, so you have a choice. You can flour this as well, but I love not to use this. I just love the rustic lines on the loaf. So those are the tins. So how are we going? 2 minutes 40. All right, I'm going to take out of the oven a loaf that I have just made. It's going to be piping hot. To show you, this is a really rustic, super quick one. It's the same recipe. Let's have a little yes. Oh my goodness, this house smells amazing. It smells so homely. So look, there's my lovely little rustic loaf that I've just made. And so I shaped that in the round Banetton tin. And normally we would just let that rest. I'm sorry, not rest, but we'll just let that sit on top of here. And I'm just going to immediately pop that on. Now I did stick a bit on the bottom of that. My tray does need a bit of love, I have to tell you. But, oh, listen. Can you hear that? That's that lovely hollow sound that you want from your bread. So I'm going to cut into this. Now normally you would let that cool down a little bit, but just to show you how beautiful this is going to be. Oh, it's going to be hot. Can you hear that crunch? Be quiet. So look at that beautiful, and that's got the addition of those beautiful wheat grains in there, so that's going to be absolutely lovely. Piping hot at the moment. So this is this recipe that we're making, and it was done, shaped in the round Banetton. So I'm just going to pop that to one side. And we must nearly be finished. Oh, 50 seconds to go. What else can I tell you? So when you're baking, a little tip, what I love to do is get a little container and put some hot water in there and put that in the oven. So let me just grab up the one I popped in there. So I just got another little bread tin. This is not a great bread tin. The bread sticks it's a good for like banana bread and stuff like that. But I just put some water in there, and that's going to create condensation in the oven, which gives you that beautiful crispy base which you saw earlier. Nearly there, guys. I'm just stopping it now because it's going to be fair. All right. So there we go. This is our beautiful dough. All done. So all I need to do now is to tip that out. And I'm just going to show you what the next stage is. So literally it would have taken you about a minute to prep that. Then you've got 5 minutes to head off and do lots of other things. So we're going to prep this. So all I need to do now is just to give this an initial shape. Just something like that. That will be fine. And I can feel those lovely whole grains in that, and it's going to give it a really nutty taste as well. So that's great. This here, this is our thermomat. Now, if you have not got a thermomat, that has got to be one of your #1 things to get from our mix shop. They are super fabulous. It's not unlike a pastry mat because you can see how flexible it is. And it's got an inner fibre core. So these can go in the oven, but I choose not to. I like to keep one for all my pastry and bread making, and then I have oven versions of this for the oven. So this is in here now, and I'm going to just wrap this up. And because it's got like an inner fibre core, what that will actually mean is that that will rise up absolutely beautifully, and it will take about 10 minutes. Now, I haven't got a risen one to show you, so I'm just going to carry on and pretend that we've just undone this and it's risen beautifully. And then what you would then do is you would then punch it down, and then you would start to shape it. So the shaping and getting all the gases out, basically you just want to pull it out like this. So you'll get all the gases out. May spend a few more minutes than I'm doing. And then what you want to do, you just want to fold that in, give that another little shape as well. So you'll hear little bits of gas coming out, and then just fold that around, give that a little bit of punch as well. So just getting that shape. And then the final thing that we're going to do is we're going to give it one more turn. Okay? And then we can start to shape that. So this could be a lovely rustic loaf. So there's a number of things that you can do from here. You can just chop this in half. Now remember, you don't want to pull your bread, you always want to cut it. So here's our mix shop scraper, which I do love. It scrapes things up, cuts down nicely. Or you can actually turn this into a nice Vienna loaf. Let me get mine. So this here is my name. It's a bread making tool, and again you can get these on the mix shop. What I could actually do is to cut some nice big, oh my lane's come up, Andy, marks in there. And then what I could actually do is then just pop that into the bread tin, and I would do that in 2 halves, and that gives it time to spread out. Or I could actually then just shape that down, and you can see how that opens up lovely. And then you've got some beautiful baguettes, so you could actually do that. And of course you could chop them to start making rolls. Now if you want to do a lovely round kind of rustic one, this texture is a bit different because it hasn't risen, we're just pretending. What you do is you start to shape it into a nice kind of circle, and then you start to just turn it. And what you're doing is you're grabbing underneath and turning that, turning and grabbing. And then just give it a little roll like that, turning and grabbing, a little roll like that. And then you'd pop it into your basket and then into the oven. So there's so many things you can do with the bread dough, and that's just a couple. You could just take that little easy Vienna and pop that straight, oh sorry, it needs another rise. So once you've shaped, so let's say we shape this guy, pop him into here. What I would then do is cover up, and you need a second proving with your bread. So you would want to cover that with some cling film or even a shell cap. That's pretty cool. And you leave it in a warm space. So it could be out on the side if it's warm. If you've got an oven that does 30 degrees or 35 degrees maximum, you could pop it in the oven because that's a great proving temperature for your bread. And in about half an hour to 40 minutes, that will have come right up. That tells you that time is good. Now, Can you overprove? Absolutely. You can't just leave this for a couple of hours, because what happens, all the carbon dioxide produced by that yeast will just deflate everything. So you do need to make sure you're around just to keep an eye on that proving. If you do want a longer proving period, pop that into the fridge, okay, and then take it out when you're ready, and it will lift up nice and quickly. So once you've actually got that and it's risen up beautifully, what you then do is pop it into a preheated oven at 180 degrees, as I said, with that little bit of water there, so you're creating that steam. And then after about half an hour, that's all it takes, you have got a very beautiful, really, really crusty loaf. Now I'll cut another slice. Oh my God, this looks so beautiful. All right, so how good is that? Just gorgeous. Thermomix is amazing for making bread. Just think how much money you're going to save as well. So that's my tips on bread making. I will post my recipe, so you can use my recipe if you want to. But remember, on Cookie Do, you've got so many choices. So go explore, have fun making bread, and the whole house will absolutely love you for it. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Colette Matriga. I will see you next time in my Thermy Kitchen.